on the surface. Okay, we made a good landing.
June 28, 1939, Pan Am set off on the first ever commercial intercontinental flight aboard a Boeing B-314 Clipper known as the Flying Boat. The trip from New York to Marseilles, France would forever change travel, at least for the privileged of this time, as a single ticket on this flight was first class only and cost $375 one way, an amount that would equate to more than $8,000 in today's time. By the early 1950s, intercontinental travel had become mainstream, and Pan Am went looking for a watch company to commission a pilot's watch like the world had never seen. A watch that could track multiple time zones at once, and it was Rolex that answered the call. Rolex got right to work producing caliber 1036, a custom movement with a fourth hand, and then borrowed the idea of a rotating bezel from their chronograph, a model that was Rolex's first tool watch in which they introduced a rotating bezel meant for measuring elapsed time. Pan Am's new watch would receive a bezel that would be made of a bakelite material. It would also be luminescent. The red section would indicate that it was daytime, and the blue section would indicate that it was nighttime. This bezel would later be named the Pepsi, for obvious reasons. Using military time, Rolex equipped the GMT Master with 24-hour markers, and combined with the new fourth hand, now allowed Pan Am pilots to keep track of up to 2 separate time zones while also keeping track of Greenwich Mean Time, or GMT time, which was the standard for international civil time up until 1972. In 1954, Rolex released a version of Pan Am's watch to the public as the GMT Master Reference 6542. But by the late 1950s, Rolex discovered that the bakelite used for the bezel was not only brittle and had a tendency to crack, but the radioactive material they used for the glowing numerals had the potential to pose a massive health risk. Because of this, Rolex recalled the 6542s and replaced the bezel with an aluminum bezel that had no lume. This recall made the original GMT Master Reference 6542 with the bakelite bezel extremely rare and extremely valuable. One selling at auction for over $300,000 in 2013, which is not bad for a watch that cost $230 when it was new. Another claim to fame for the 6542 is that it was the first watch to ever have factory-fitted end-links, something copied by every watch manufacturer in the world from that point on. In 1959, Rolex bumped the case size from the original 38mm to 40mm when they released the GMT Master Reference 1675. The 1675 was the first Rolex sports watch to be offered with both options of either the Jubilee or the Oyster bracelet. Fast forward to 1970, and Rolex would produce the GMT Master with serial number 2448767. That watch, unbeknownst to Rolex, just 1 year later on February 5th in 1971 would become the first Rolex on the moon, when astronaut and pilot of the lunar module Edgar Mitchell, while wearing his NASA-issued Omega Speedmaster on his left wrist, would choose to add his personal Rolex GMT Master to his right as a backup. So talk about 2 time zones, how about 2 planets? The Apollo 14 mission would see the 5th person, Commander Alan B. Shepard, and the 6th person, Edgar Mitchell himself, walk on the moon. And while it is not verified that Mitchell was wearing the Rolex under his spacesuit, he was photographed before the launch, during flight, and during the return, and all 3 times the GMT Master was on his wrist. Meaning this watch was there when Shepard and Mitchell traveled more than 1 mile from their landing site, played a little moon golf, and spent a record 33 hours and 31 minutes on the lunar surface. Mitchell opted to go with the folded link Oyster bracelet designed and produced by Gay Ferrez, a company that brought the world not only the Oyster design, but also the AP Royal Oak bracelet, the Patek Philippe Nautilus bracelet, the famous Beads of Rice bracelet, and that's just to name drop a few. Gay Ferrez produced bracelets for Rolex up until 1998, when Rolex purchased the company, allowing Rolex bracelets to become in-house from then on. So I think it's safe to say that this particular GMT Master is pretty special. And what's really cool is that it's currently on auction at RR Auction. And while it was estimated to bring over $400,000, the bid is already over $500,000. My bet is that this thing goes for more than double the expected amount, and that it will probably be Rolex who places the final bid. I am sure that if you are a watch enthusiast, and especially if you are a lover of all things Rolex, you will remember this moment in 2017.
14,500,000. The Paul Newman 6239 selling officially at 15,500,000. It is history now. 15,500,000.
Yes, that is correct. Paul Newman's Daytona sold for $15.5 million, and here's the kicker. That was without auction fees. The total, when all was said and done, was $17.75 million for that watch. The identity of the person that purchased the Newman is still unknown, and Phillips Watches, the auction house that sold the watch, confirmed that the buyer was an individual collector, but some believe that it was Rolex that purchased the watch, and if so, it would not be their first time. Rolex previously purchased astronaut Ron Evans' GMT Master that he wore on the Apollo 17 mission, which was the last mission to see man walk on the moon, for $131,450. So go ahead and lock in your estimate in the comments. How much do you think this watch is going to sell for? I'm going to say it's going to be north of $850,000. Well, the auction ends on October 25th, so I guess we will see. I've included a link to the auction in the description, just in case you want to check it out. Again, don't forget to lock in your guesstimate in the comments. Subscribe while you're there. It did take me an extra week to get this video up. As you know, I live in Florida, and we had some hurricanes that set me back a little bit. But I appreciate you watching. Watch this video right here, and I'll see you on the next one.